Spoilers ahead. Watch out, and take care. The movie begins with a peaceful morning in Texas. Michael, a former cowboy, enjoys breakfast with his wife, Elena Love, and their son, Nat Love, in their cozy prairie home. The table is set with their favorite dishes, and Michael leads a prayer, expressing gratitude for the day's blessings. Their tranquil moment is abruptly interrupted by an unexpected visitor knocking on the door. To Michael's shock, Rufus Buck, the formidable cowboy and leader of a ruthless gang of robbers, stands on their doorstep. Fear and confusion wash over Michael, as he wonders about Rufus's purpose. Rufus and his gang are infamous for their brutality, stopping at nothing, even murder, to achieve their goals. In a desperate attempt to protect his family, Michael invites him to the dinner table, hoping to avoid harm. He takes a seat and casually places his 2 golden pistols on the table, creating an atmosphere thick with tension. He nonchalantly points his gun at Nat, held from behind by one of his men with a scorpion tattoo on his left hand. With his family's lives hanging in the balance, Michael pleads with Rufus to spare them, offering his own life in exchange for their safety. However, Rufus remains unmoved, callously shooting a family member right before their eyes. The traumatic scene leaves Nat screaming in horror. Despite Michael's resistance, Rufus ultimately shoots him in the head. Nat, now an adult after several years have passed, prays in a church. A man named Cortez, bearing the same scorpion tattoo, enters to pray. Nat greets Cortez with a smile, revealing a cross-shaped scar on his forehead that unnerves Cortez. Without hesitation, Nat pulls out his gun and shoots Cortez in the head, avenging his family's murder. Meanwhile, another member of Nat's gang, Bill Pickett, tracks a group of robbers who recently left town, and are headed toward the region's hills. Nat's gang seeks revenge against those who have robbed their townsfolk. Pickett ambushes the robbers as they approach, swiftly shooting them down from their horses. When only 3 robbers remain, another member of Nat's gang, Jim Beckworth, joins in to assist Pickett. One of the surviving robbers reveals they are part of Rufus's gang, with Monroe Grimes disclosing that crossing Rufus's gang leads to grave consequences. Jim and Pickett decide to spare Monroe's life, but take him to their hideout base for further questioning. Later at night, Nat is at a nightclub with his girlfriend, Mary Fields, when Pickett informs him they've captured one of Rufus's men. Nat rushes to their hideout, where he interrogates Monroe at gunpoint, forcing him to reveal Rufus's whereabouts. He reveals Rufus is currently in a Texas state prison, with his sentence set to end tomorrow night, and discloses that Rufus will head to their base in Redwood. Surprisingly, Nat chooses not to execute Monroe, and allows him to leave. The next day, as Rufus is being transferred to another prison by train, his gang plans to rescue him. Trudy Smith, one of Rufus's associates, boldly blocks the train's path on horseback, leading to a confrontation with the operator. Trudy shoots the operator dead, allowing Rufus's gang to board the train. A young sheriff guarding the train carriage attempts to intervene, but is threatened by Cherokee Bill, one of Rufus's men, who warns they will kill all the passengers if the sheriff obstructs them. Fearing for the passengers' safety, the sheriff relents and allows the gang to proceed. Cherokee takes the sheriff hostage to gain access to the carriage holding Rufus. As the gang, known for their brutality, gains control of the situation, the prison's chief warden decides to release Rufus, to ensure the passengers' safety. Rufus steps out of his confinement, and breathes the air of freedom, as his gang celebrates their successful rescue. All the police officers watch as Rufus calmly exits the train. He is considered the most ruthless cowboy in all of Texas. Upon rejoining his gang, they hastily make their way to their hideout base in Redwood, a town Rufus had built using ill-gotten wealth accumulated over the years. The town had flourished since Rufus's departure a few years earlier. In Redwood, a man named Wiley Esco had been awaiting Rufus's return. Wiley had been one of his men assigned to govern the city while he was imprisoned. When Rufus visits the local bank to collect the stolen money that his gang had acquired over time, the bank staff informs him all the money had been stolen just 2 days ago, by mysterious cowboys in the Texas hills. This revelation leaves Rufus bewildered. He had also saved $25,000 in the bank, but the clerk tells him it had been used up before his imprisonment. Realizing that Wiley is the likely culprit who had stolen all the money, Rufus wastes no time and goes to confront him. Upon reaching, Rufus demands the return of the $25,000 in cash. Wiley, however, nonchalantly informs him the money has already been spent to finance their group's activities. In an audacious display, Wiley reveals his plan to sell the city to white businessmen, and expel all the black residents. This revelation infuriates Rufus, who had trusted Wiley to oversee the city in his absence. Enraged and disappointed by Wiley's betrayal, Rufus challenges him to a one-on-one duel, stipulating no weapons to be used. Despite Wiley making the first move, Rufus dominates the fight, inflicting severe injuries with just a few powerful punches to the face. Although Rufus emerges victorious, he chooses not to kill Wiley, allowing him to leave the city alive, due to their shared history of building Redwood together. The fateful night, while Nat sought solace in a local bar, Sheriff Bass Reeves approaches his table, seeking a private conversation. Nat's gang members observe the interaction with keen interest. However, Nat surprises everyone by raising his beer in a toast to Sheriff Bass, and then aiming his gun at his own gang members. He declares his intention to accompany the sheriff to the police station, for questioning regarding a recent bank robbery. Nat implores his men to remain calm, and let the sheriff take him away, confident in his ability to handle the situation alone. By the next morning, Sheriff Bass and Nat have traveled far from the gang's hideout. In a dense forest, Bass abruptly halts the train, and instructs Nat to disembark. It is revealed Nat's arrest had been part of a carefully orchestrated plan between Sheriff Bass and Nat to separate Nat from his gang. Bass seeks Nat's assistance in seeking revenge against Rufus, the man responsible for the murder of Nat's parents. After explaining his intentions, Nat agrees to collaborate in seeking vengeance. Unbeknownst to him, his gang members and a bar owner named Cuffy had clandestinely followed Bass's train all night, to uncover his true intentions regarding Nat. Seeing their unexpected arrival, Nat attempts to explain, but Pickett, one of his gang members, interrupts, and declares their unwavering commitment to confronting Rufus and his gang. Recognizing their sincerity and determination, Nat has no choice but to include them in his plan for revenge. Meanwhile, Trudy gathers the residents of Redwood, and exposes Wiley's secret dealings with white businessmen. She implores the townspeople to join forces in settling their debts, to prevent outsiders from seizing their city. Rufus, displaying his ruthlessness, shoots a resident who opposes paying the dues, making it clear they need the funds urgently, or their families will suffer dire consequences. Simultaneously, Nat's gang and Bass convene in the heart of the forest to discuss their strategy for bringing down Rufus. Unexpectedly, they encounter Wiley, who is attempting to flee to a neighboring town, being expelled from Redwood. Bass promptly arrests him, seeking valuable information about Rufus and his gang. During the interrogation, Wiley cautions Nat and his group against recklessly invading Redwood without proper preparation. He emphasizes Rufus and his gang are formidable adversaries. Wiley proposes a clever strategy. One of them could pose as a wealthy businessman, and offer to purchase a bar in Redwood. Given Rufus's need for funds to settle the city's debts, Rufus might accept such an offer. This diversion would allow Nat's group to infiltrate Redwood, and initiate their attack. Impressed by Wiley's cunning idea, Nat invites him to collaborate in seeking revenge, believing Wiley shares their desire for justice. In the evening, Mary goes to Redwood to negotiate the purchase of a bar, as planned. However, during the negotiations, Mary inadvertently mentions a recent robbery targeting Rufus's men, raising his suspicions. News of the robbery has not yet spread widely. Rufus realizes Mary is a member of the gang responsible for the robbery, and orders Trudy to subdue her. The next morning, Nat grows increasingly worried when Mary does not return. He suspects something terrible has happened, and decides to go to Redwood to rescue her. Upon their arrival, they are confronted by Trudy, who reveals she knows Nat's gang has robbed Rufus's men. She has taken Mary hostage and demands the stolen money's return, along with an additional $10,000 as a penalty, threatening to kill Mary if they refuse. The next morning, Nat and his gang devise a plan to rob a bank, and secure the funds needed to save Mary. With their experience and skills, they are confident in their ability to execute the heist successfully. Cuffy, disguised as a wealthy woman, will infiltrate the bank without arousing suspicion. Nat and Cuffy will then pretend to open a new account, to distract the bank clerk. Meanwhile, the rest of the gang will monitor the surroundings outside the bank. Upon arriving at the bank, Cuffy proceeds to the teller's counter, and quickly reveals a concealed weapon, surprising the teller. Simultaneously, Nat points his gun at the security guard, intimidating him into stepping aside. They manage to secure a substantial sum of money from the bank, but as they leave, the alarm is triggered, prompting police officers to open fire at Nat. Fortunately, Pickett covers their escape, allowing Nat and Cuffy to flee safely with the stolen money. During their preparations in the forest, Wiley unexpectedly appears, armed with an arsenal of weapons and ammunition for their upcoming battle. He has infiltrated Rufus's armory and successfully pilfered weaponry and ammunition. With their equipment ready, Nat and his gang commence their preparations for the mission to rescue Mary. Sheriff Bass arrives first in a horse-drawn carriage, pretending to bring the money Rufus had demanded. Cherokee welcomes him, but as some of Rufus's men approach to inspect the money, a massive explosion occurs, killing some of Rufus's gang members. Realizing the situation has escalated, Cherokee aims a gun at Sheriff Bass. Sheriff Bass explains it has all been a bluff to ensure Rufus's compliance in releasing Mary. Following this revelation, Nat arrives on horseback and moves towards Redwood, accompanied by Cuffy, who is in a horse-drawn carriage, carrying the requested sum of money. Rufus observes their movements from behind a window. Simultaneously, Pickett and the rest of Nat's gang have positioned themselves strategically to monitor the situation and safeguard Nat, who declares his willingness to destroy all the money if Rufus does not release Mary promptly. Trudy has no choice but to hand Mary over. As Nat approaches Mary, Cherokee suddenly aims a gun at him from behind. Simultaneously, another member of Rufus's gang, Jim, is positioned behind Cherokee, and he swiftly shoots Jim in the head. Witnessing his best friend's unjust death, Pickett, positioned atop a building, is consumed by rage. He immediately opens fire, aiming to settle the score. At the sight of the burning pile of money in the horse-drawn carriage, Rufus and his gang prepare for a deadly confrontation. Rufus realizes that Nat has harbored intentions of revenge from the beginning. A tense shootout ensues between Nat's group and Rufus's gang. In the heat of battle, Matt displays remarkable prowess, and manages to eliminate most of Rufus's gang members. Amidst the chaos, Mary pursues Trudy, who has fled to a nearby farm. A fierce and exhausting battle unfolds, ultimately culminating in Mary emerging victorious, Trudy meeting her demise. Meanwhile, Sheriff Bass and Nat continue their struggle against Rufus's remaining men. During the skirmish, one of the adversaries wounds Nat in the shoulder, causing him to collapse. Just as Rufus's men are about to deliver the fatal shot to Nat's head, Sheriff Bass swiftly eliminates the threat. Taking cover behind a horse-drawn carriage across the road, Nat finds himself cornered. He recollects the traumatic memories of the day Rufus had come to his home and murdered his parents. Despite the deep-seated trauma, this memory fuels Nat's determination to exact revenge. Despite his badly injured hands, he rises from his slump and unleashes a torrent of bullets on Rufus's men. Meanwhile, Wiley locates Rufus at his hideout. Before he can say a word, Rufus plants a bomb beneath Wiley's jacket, leading to a fatal explosion. Pickett and Cuffy, having successfully infiltrated Rufus's base, embark on a mission to eliminate Rufus's remaining men. However, Cherokee suddenly appears and shoots Pickett from behind. Cuffy, witnessing her best friend's unjust death, challenges Cherokee to a duel, determined to settle the score. After a tense showdown, Cuffy manages to outdraw and eliminate Cherokee. Finally, Nat confronts Rufus at his hideout. Determined to put an end to their long-standing vendetta, he approaches Rufus, who is seated in a chair and doesn't defend himself, and reminds him of the 10-year-old boy whose life had been forever scarred by the murder of his parents at Rufus's hands. In response, Rufus discloses a shocking revelation. He claims they are half-brothers. Their father killed his mother in self-defense, as she had been protecting from the abusive and murderous father. Rufus asserts his father had left him after taking his mother's possessions. Nat, overwhelmed by the revelation, initially denies the truth, and accuses Rufus of lying. He can't fathom that the man who had killed his parents was his own brother. Rufus attempts to provoke Nat, pushing him to end the confrontation swiftly. Confused and conflicted, Nat ultimately fires several bullets at Rufus. After all the trials and tribulations they had endured, Rufus meets his end at the hands of his own brother. The next day, Nat and his gang lay Jim and Pickett to rest. With their mission concluded, Cuffy returns to managing her bar, Sheriff Bass resumes his duties, and Nat and Mary embark on a new journey together. A powerful moral lesson is imparted: the mistakes of the past may resurface as consequences or a thirst for revenge. Nevertheless, these experiences can serve as lessons for personal growth and redemption. The end. Thank you for watching. Subscribe if you'd like to see more videos like this. Turn on the notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out.